everybody. It's C-Dubs here. Welcome to another episode of This Week in the Forge, where badasses go to train to be melted down and then shaped, hardened, sharpened into a new breed of leader. So each week, we get together as a team and we reflect on our actions and our activities. And this week in the Forge, we talked about some super cool stuff. We've been working on the practice of mental visualization. That's the technique that elite athletes use so that they can rehearse the duties that they're called upon to perform and to do it with perfection. Now, those duties could be facilitation, difficult conversations. It could be presentations, public speaking. But we're learning that mental rehearsal technique the same way that pro athletes and performers do it. Because as it turns out, mental rehearsal is almost as powerful as real rehearsal. The other thing that we like to do in the Forge is to talk about how we show up as a team. So this week, we spoke about negativity. How often do we show up with that poor me attitude, thinking that this sucks? I shouldn't have to do this. Well, that's too bad, because you know what? There's always going to be another set of crappy things that you don't want to do, but you have to do anyway. And it's those who complain and those who wait, those who prefer to stay comfortable, ultimately struggle. And isn't it so interesting that it's always those people, the excuse makers, who fail to see that they haven't participated in their own rescue? They truly believe that the fault and the blame and the failure lies elsewhere. In reality, when you get badass, you come to realize that you are limitless. All you have to do is take the governors off. And in this case, the governors, the bad attitudes, the bad influences, the mindsets of comfort and ease. Well, negativity is one of those things too. So how do you break it? Well, the first trick is becoming aware of it. So that's one of the things that we're learning to do. And then the next thing, once you're aware of it, now you can control it. But of course, until you have the awareness, none of that's going to work. Now, another thing that we discussed today is what I call the real reason. See, when people do surveys, they say, what do you think the number one cause of Agile failure is? And everyone always responds, it's that non-growth mindset of the leadership. When in actual fact, think about it. If a leader, if an executive sees that there's an attitude or an approach that hits home runs, that crushes results, that sets the town on fire, you don't think they're going to use it? That's just crazy thinking. Of course they will. So it's pretty easy to blame management for lack of action, to blame them for lack of support. But really, if you look around a team room, create a vision, create some targets, and then ask your team to get after it and watch what happens. Before long, you got excuses coming from the left. And on the other side, you got people who, all they want to do is show you how clever they are, how special they are. See, all of those things that we do when we commit to a team, and as soon as we make that commitment, we begin to let the team down by procrastinating, by doing things other than what's called for, also known as waste. You're coming from a place of me. You're focused on what you want. You're focused on what you're comfortable with. You're not thinking about your team. You're not thinking about your company or your clients. You're thinking about what works well for you. And rewind all the way back to episode 1 of the Badass Agile podcast and look up the episode on service. I don't know how many different ways to try to get this one across, but a vision without service is just a dream. How are you going to recruit, motivate, inspire other people to get behind that vision? You have to serve something bigger than yourself. I don't believe in shortcuts, but one of the simplest shortcuts that I've ever seen. And I don't just read this, I don't just preach this, I live this. Ask anyone who knows me, they'll tell you I serve first and I receive later. Sometimes never. But I don't even think about what I'm going to get. I think about what I'm going to give. If you do that, everything else just takes care of itself. But when you're in a team room and all you're thinking about is me, here's what I believe, here's what I need. When you put those things ahead of the team, whatever it is you're trying to do is going to fail. And when it fails, And we have to turn that powerful lens upon ourselves and say, what went wrong? How could we do better? What did we say? It was that guy. It was the management. It was the leadership. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's nonsense. Of course, the tricky part is knowing that that's the real reason for all Agile failure. What do you do? Well, that's a lesson for another day. But that's what we did in the Forge this week. What a great crew I have. I mean, if you don't have a crew like the crew we have in the Forge, I almost feel bad for you. Anyway, I love you guys. You can reach out at badassagile.com. You can find me on Twitter at badass_agile or on Instagram at badassagile. Thank you for being true believers. I love you all. I'll see you next time. And until then, stay badass.